Little motherfuckers.
Um,
That's how I activate unknown.
we unfortunately. Hello, welcome to Wizards in the Waste. That's right. My brain is still burned, very burned. In fact, it was burned, and then it took 37 cc's of snopamine directly to the brain. So yes, it's great. Anyway, um, today we will unfortunately not have Alice, or at least for the majority of the session, probably. Um, they were not able to make it in because of some local troubles with the power grid. So they might be back, might not. If they are, then yippee. If not,
Cross chewed on their wires.
yeah, the copper is vital to your diet as a living human.
No.
You need copper in some amounts. You just don't need it from
Nah, there's not the
wires.
amount in fucking wires.
Yeah, I just chose to take a faster route of getting copper in a year's supply.
Trust I
No.
know the joke is to eat the rich, but you're not supposed to do it 1 penny at a time.
Well, pennies
are-
aren't even made of fucking copper anymore.
Yeah, those are predominantly zinc. Why do you guys still have those? They're stupid.
Because our
I think
government
they
doesn't know
were-
how to do anything actually beneficial to us and just keeps going with the same broken system that it has since ever.
Like, I'm just going to point to Exhibit A, which is the current state of affairs for anything in the United States right now in Oxago. How is that your biggest question?
Yeah, that too. Also, sorry, so one thing. If I'm quiet, please let me know. I'm still trying to remember that my microphone is no longer on the left side. It's now on my right side, and I keep still looking to my left. So if I'm quiet and talking, please tell me so I can turn my head. Thank you.
What, did your microphone start listening to Joe Rogan or something?
No, I don't even have a response to that comment. So, Alice, you
Yeah,
excited there? No.
So,
but no, I just rearranged my desk. Anyways.
yeah.
Anyways.
So last time we went to our respective local faction locations where they wanted to basically prep us for the tournament. Some of us had like outfit changes and stuff. A lot of us, though, given that we are effectively sponsored by factions that operate off of scrap, we're not offered that. So
By that you mean only Luna got an outfit change, is what you're saying.
Well, Firefist was offered some new leather. If he wanted some new leathers and etc. I don't know if he took him up on that offer or not.
Yeah, why not? It's Kobold's crafted leather. It's got to be good.
So you know it's good.
You know it's quality.
I just made them all watch the whole of Dungeon Soup, by the way.
Every single episode, back to back.
There may be some quotes that happen.
It's gonna happen. I'm not. I feel like I should apologize, but I'm not going to because it's funny.
I can't wait to break out the line during the tournament. I like my playthings durable.
Like the teeth clicks, yeah.
Extra durable.
Read really good voices for that.
It's like listening to it again.
Crystal, are you driving? Dash, are you driving?
She should be actively at work. Why are you in Twitch chat, Dash? You're at work for another hour. What are you doing?
She's doing her all-American duty of blowing off work, clearly.
It's true. It's true. Anyway, we
this channel at work all the time. It's the only time she goes live except for Wizards. That or the middle of the night.
So it's a deal then.
She is salty about nobody else eating the board, so she's gonna feed someone pennies. If you could eat a couple pennies and not throw it, make your next spell roll easier by 1. If you fail, gain 1 corruption. Also, your skin becomes filtered. I can't do that. I can't do that on the fly. That's not something I can do. That is a hard-coded element of the stream.
think she means in game.
Oh,
game.
oh, okay. Yeah. Um, I
I will not choose to not partake in this bargain.
I will choose to not eat pennies, thank you.
I'm also
Yeah,
not going to
no.
eat any pennies. I'm good.
And
Yeah, no need.
Tara, do you want to eat pennies?
Oh boy, do I?
Oh no!
Okay. Give me a. gi-
Roll for pennies?
Yeah,
for-
roll for
I
pennies.
guess.
Fuck it.
Hey,
I'm the
good.
penny eating champion.
I shoved a whole bag of pennies.
Up
Are you
my throat.
sure that Alice is the goat and you're the lizard, or
Oh my god. Okay, well, while
Sorry, I'm giving
Tara's
my best
eating,
shot.
yeah, we're just gonna go right into it. Fuck it. While Tara is eating pennies, we'll get back to that in a minute. Your next roll is easier by one. You know what? Fuck it. I'll give you advantage on your next roll for that. Fuck it. The
Fucking
pennies give you power. Okay. Um. Alice, from doing all of her, the way we're gonna play this is that Alice, for doing all of her, actually, I had a contingency plan, for doing all of her, I see you tweaking in the corner of my screen.
Can you finish your sentence, ma'am?
I'm trying. God damn, I swear I took a minute today. I took it late
Every
though.
time you fail at talking, I'm gonna draw another Among Us on the table.
Anyway, Alice collapses from exhaustion, essentially. She's been staying up all night, trying to figure out void stuff, and then she's done a whole fucking day of bullshit while also casting spells and using potions and fucking trying to apprehend a nasty wizard. After traveling to the void and back, and also conversing and making deals and all that shit, so she's a little EP. She'll probably wake up eventually, and if not, she'll wake up tomorrow. It's okay. Um,
Still issue.
so yeah, just a little EP wizard. It's okay. Oh, I see how it is, Mr. Game Master. But I'm just fucking with you. So yeah, in the meantime, while we are waking up, the way this is gonna work is that the tournament is happening later in the day. It's gonna be happening around like midday, a little bit later. Kind of the preparations midday, and then the actual tournament itself is gonna be starting at 1. So, we have a bit of time in the morning to do things and to get last minute things done. If you have things you want to do, now may be the time. We're gonna start off with Tara. While you are awake, guzzling pennies, apparently, and Orion is conked out. It looks like she's sleeping very soundly. In fact, it looks like she's sleeping like she's out cold, like just out fucking cold. There is not a lick of consciousness that is remaining. And her eyes shoot open, but she is not moving.
Girl, you good? I'm gonna stop horfing my
Yeah,
pound of pennies.
could you take 2
and-
seconds out of
and-
your morning rituals?
I'm gonna flick a penny at her cheek and see if she responds.
You hear like the start of another deeper voice beginning to emanate from her mouth before the pain collides with her face. He's like, "Duh. What happened? Where am I?"
You're sleeping with your eyes open, and then you're gonna start Mongolian throat singing. You good?
Why are you eating a bag of pennies?
Don't worry. She puts it behind her back.
Is this what you do when we can't see you?
Yes.
That's
Because
not
she
a
doesn't
good
want to
answer.
answer, actually.
If there's something worse than that, you need a lot of, I don't know that therapy would help.
Uh,
Okay.
this might be a bad time to ask,
I think it might be.
considering.
Okay. So,
But
all right. Sure. Yeah. We'll go with that.
I didn't get. Okay, I'm gonna come clean about something.
Sure.
The Aristu told me that they were gonna give me an outfit. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually kind of looking forward to it.
Sure.
Can you help me put something together?
Oh. Well, you don't have to eat pennies for that. You can just ask.
Well, I wasn't eating the pennies to bribe you into doing it.
Oh, I was gonna say the pennies would work better if they weren't eaten. I was confused of where the logic was going there.
But that part was just for fun. It makes one of
Okay.
my spells work better. I can't explain it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fasha found them for me.
Sure. Of course she did. Okay. Noted for if I ever get a familiar. Yeah, I can definitely help you out. Let's see.
Yippee!
Orion pulls out of a small pouch the dress that she's definitely always had on her person since leaving the ship. The fancy schmancy one that she stuck Terra in a while back. I mean, this isn't exactly battle ready, but it is something that's a change.
Oh. Well, yeah. No, if uh is she saying to make that into a battle ready outfit, basically?
We can. There's nothing stopping us. We have plenty of scrap around.
That's fair. And she kind of like holds it, she scrunches the fabric in her hands a little bit and she holds them and she goes, maybe not this one. I kind of like this just for wearing.
Okay, sure.
And you see like a little well, not you like Ezra and Ryan, but like out of character, you see a part where she's shuffling around in the vents wearing the dress.
This is my goblin mode dress. I need it for goblin activities.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, we can definitely do that. Let's see. How about this? I will worry about that. I know you had some other things to attend to. Let me take care
Yeah.
of making something, and I'll meet you. I'm sure they have a station for changing into your outfit when you get there.
Hey,
turn.
real talk though, like I don't expect you to help me on this for free. Is there anything that I can grab for you or keep an eye out? I can make you potions.
How about trade offer? You just
All right.
put on a good show. You beat the shit out of somebody. And if it's Nova, please don't kill her. You can beat the shit out of her, though, as a treat. She deserves that much.
Sir, there's been like she's like just kind of like catching up from you last time. She's like, so let me get this straight. Nova part demon now? Or has been part demon a long time?
Something like that. I don't really know how her magic works. The only thing I know is that it's very powerful, very finicky, and the Queen of the Glass Palace was very invested in it. So it has to be of some importance. If she's here and it ends up being that she's being controlled and she's not in control, that's a very different story than how I had it. And is probably a lot more dangerous.
Understandable. Which I will be leaving my demonology book if you wanted to take a skim over that. I did some reading over the last night.
Oh, I'm fine. I'll figure it out as we go.
Okay. Well, I'll put on a good show for you. Thanks, Orion.
Of course.
And yeah, Tara's gonna head off to start her little venture off into the endless city. She has someone that she needs to go talk to. I would
Yeah.
love to pass the mantle on to anyone else who would like to do something though. For a minute.
Fire Solstice Raid.
Mhm.
Do you have
I don't have
anything?
anything particular, but you did mention you wanted to do something.
Sure, I can do that now. Uh,
All right.
as you and Luna are kind of getting ready for the day and meeting up, um, you are in sort of like a large common room that they prepared for you. Um, not like a fucking massive ballroom or anything. It's just a room that they've staged for you guys to have for now. Um,
Mhm.
and she as she's getting like the final bits of like frill and decoration on that they've assigned her as like a little addition to show how ornate and fancy they are. um she takes a pause and says, "Hey, Reith,
Yep.
so you don't serve the Glass Palace, right?"
Correct.
"Right. And I'm gearing up to be queen if all goes to plan.
Yeah.
What happens when what I need to do isn't what you're ordered to do?"
We figure that road out when we cross it.
Okay.
I serve the Fae. They're not as hands-on as the Queen of the Glass Palace tends to be. I'm not expecting them to be super bothered. My instructions were, hey, arranged. It'd be convenient if somebody from our party took this leadership. Was my only instructions.
Sure. I'm just worried about what that might entail because I will have a duty to uphold and I don't know that I'd be willing to compromise that.
Well, if we go with the Firefist plan, where Firefist wins and you're kind of his surrogate, then they get to deal with Firefist.
I suppose that's true.
And it kind of moots the whole point there. I mean, I ain't convincing that guy of shit.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, I'm an agent of a foreign government, but then again, so is everybody else in our group. It's never stopped anything before.
That's true.
So we'll have to see what that means.
Okay. Well, I'm sure it'll all work out.
Probably won't, but it'll be
Oh.
exciting to see how it goes.
Yeah. She like nervously like grips the tiara. Well, I have a backup plan. I've thought about it a little bit, and should everything go to plan, I think I know of a way to at least defend myself.
Good. What are you going to do if you're against the scientist, though?
Well, mundane to mundane, I'm sure we can come to an agreement.
If that's, you think there's going to be an opportunity there, all right.
I mean, he hates wizards. I'm not, so I might have an
Yeah,
advantage with talking with him.
don't know how. I don't know how he is about obeying his agreements, though. When it comes to greed, I'm sure he has some pretty nasty clauses in that contract of his.
Probably. Though I'm sure most of those are geared toward killing wizards, and if they are, I'm of course assuming a lot, but if they are, I should be okay.
All right, but don't hesitate to forfeit if you have to.
Of course. I plan that too. I'm not good at fighting.
Yeah, we'll maybe have to work on that one of these days.
Can you what? Sorry?
I said we're probably gonna have
No,
to
sorry,
work
I'm
on
getting
that one.
DM mailed and I don't understand what's being said.
Oh,
Oh my god. I've been told, and I quote, "Fuck you, bite me." Um, if you want to use a gear bubble for that, I'll let you do it. Fuck it, sure.
There is a knock at the door to your room, Ree, the one that you and Lynn are currently in.
Yes.
Yeah, delivery for Luna.
Reese squints and goes over to check.
There is a man in a blue uniform that says WizX on the hat, and he is holding what appears to be a mace wrapped in paper. It just says Luna from Solstice on the label.
Reese
Yeah,
is gonna inspect whatever it is to make sure it's not like a trap.
Nope, it's the war mace that we picked up from the deep. That Solstice decided he wanted her to have, so he fucking FedExed it over to her.
All right. Hey, Luna.
What the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
Oh,
I'm not strong.
souls. Is
It's
it
just,
enchanted in any way, or is it just a
it's
mace?
just a mace. It's just a big ass
Just a
fucking
mace.
stick with a big ass. It's basically a stick that is huge with a massive bowling ball in the end that's made of steel. It's meant to bonk the fuck out of people, but like, he doesn't know how to use that.
It's a backup plan.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, cool.
I don't necessarily follow his logic, but
I appreciate
you know him
the
better than I
effort.
do.
No, I don't. I'm gonna. I don't understand this plan either. I think I'm gonna
Okay,
stick with the knife.
fair enough.
Oh shit, a knife! I forgot about the knife!
I think the knife is gonna be okay.
I forgot about the knife!
You know, I do have a rifle.
I forgot about that. We could use a gun. Are wizards weak to
You want?
guns?
I mean,
Just American magic.
I don't
Nah.
know. I don't know that most of us have encountered non-magical guns, so it's
Huh.
hard to say. Here, grab this. He passes her a rifle, and this thing too. And he passes her the stone that he stole from the wizard in the solstice fight.
Oh, what did that? Oh shit! Yeah, that thing. Oh fuck.
Yeah, this might end up useful too.
Oh fuck. Okay, hold on. Dwarback has to quickly name an item. Small fuck ass anima. There we go. Oh, sure. Thanks. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think I was gonna be using a gun, but you know, desperate times, desperate measures.
Yeah, consider it Plan C, I guess.
Sure. You know, I've overthinked a lot about this battle, but I've never gotten to that conclusion. Sure. Let's go. Let's do that.
I mean, you've heard my "you need to kill things" speech enough given to Solstice. I don't think you need to hear it again.
Oh, I don't mind. I haven't done it before, but I'm not going to hesitate.
Fair enough.
I have seen what becomes of people who hesitate, and it is not a good sight. I've had to oversee a lot of those cases.
I was probably like the cause of quite a few of them.
She like you just see her like like a 9-yard stare in the distance for a little bit, calculating, and she's like, let's not think about that. Anyway,
Mhm.
yes, I believe we're good. We're good.
All right. Then let's take the time you need to get mentally ready for the fight, and let's just
I'm
get
never
you
gonna
over
be
there when
mentally
ready.
ready. I am starting on the edge of my seat. It'll be okay. You
Now
sound like
you
a
sound like
very,
a Ryan.
yeah, you just like a very emphatic thumbs up as they're like cringing on the side.
Wreath is internally like, oh god, we're so in so much trouble.
I guess we'll cut to to Fire Fist. What you up to? You getting a last check in with your boy, or you getting some new fit? You get some new drip with the kobolds. What you up to?
Probably getting the drip, getting Ozzy's approval on said drip.
Hell yeah. You have like Ozzy with you in this very haphazard, cluttered kobold tailoring area. Like shop is basically Ollivanders, but less Ollivanders and has more leather everywhere. Just chilling. Um, I don't I don't think I want to think about that. The implications of that, Knox. Um, I don't. How does Firefest? Can you give me an impression of Ozzy really quickly so I can try and impersonate that?
I would recommend that you. I'm not the best one to impersonate Ozzy. I would recommend you just look up any Ozzy clip.
Home Skillet, I am going to suck ass at it too. That's the point. That's why it's funny. But I don't know what he sounds like.
You just have to pick your Ozzy. You have lucid Ozzy and you have non-lucid Ozzy. Lucid Ozzy. I mean, the easiest way to describe it, and I'll try to do it in a second, is no hard consonants. It's very much that Northern Britain accent.
Okay.
I'm trying to think something here.
Alright, love. Let's get it started.
Close enough.
Alright. Alright then. This drip. this this drip. I think this suit fits you very well. One problem though. It's a bit lacking in the pizzazz. You look a bit, you look like you just got your first leather suit when you got out of high school. It's a look, but I don't know which one we want to go for.
God, awkward times. No, think about that now, do it.
What? I have a fix. I have a fix. No worries. He like, trims off some of the edges, does some, it shows the little kobold, tailor, a few tricks to get some more ornate, little bits, assigned to it. He, changes out the belt to be more spiky and fancy. And then, on the back of your, suit, he like blows into his hand and a searing pentagram burns itself on the back of your jacket.
Oh, that's much more like it.
You finally look like you're ready to fight. Fucked up. You finally look like you're ready to fight.
It's fun being back home again, you know? It's lovely. Feels nostalgic.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And hey, you can finally rock everyone's socks off. And nothing else. I mean, it's not the first time you bombed a concert.
I know, yes, you're not wrong, but I guess there's more stake in this one than the previous ones at least, so we'll see what happens.
Well, regardless, he hands you a silver ring that's got a few ornate little blotches on it. In addition, just a memento.
Oh, look at that. He is gonna absolutely put the ring on. Oh, God, that looks great, Ozzy. I haven't seen something this fine craftsmanship since you gave me my original folk.
Wow.
We just keep adding rings to Fire Fist.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. That's canonically he wears a shitload of rings.
Yeah. I imagine like this one's like kind of like super beveled on all the edges. It's very like intentionally rough, you know? And it's got
Sounds
a
like my
Go ahead,
sounds like
sorry.
my engineering ring. Sounds like my
Hey.
engineering ring.
Let's go. That's right. You have the Canadian cult ring.
Yes, I do.
Canadian coloring.
I mean,
Much
have
like
you seen
Go ahead,
the
sorry.
oath? It's pretty culty.
It is pretty culty. I've read it. It's pretty cool. You have something basically similar to the Canadian cult ring TM. Legally distinct. But and then when the tailor is not looking, you have your latest supply of the premium good shit slid into one of your coat pockets.
Just gonna
Safekeeping.
pat his pocket. Oh, that's good stuff. That's the after party right there.
Safekeeping. I'm not worried that they'll try and arrest you or anything, but to be honest, I just don't think they can handle anything. They seem a bit special on their own.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay. Find a little bit of advice. That the last combatant, I can't put much obviously information out there, or else I'll hear an ear full of it, and I'll have to do a lot of paperwork. Luna no longer being down there makes it quite difficult to keep up. But I can skirt the rules just a little bit. One of your combatants, I don't think she's all there. She seems to be a bit dazed at all times. It's like there's something clouding her focus.
Dazed, that's new. And
It
kind of fucked up on drugs or like headstrong kind of dazed.
it seems like it doesn't look like she's intentionally possessed by a demon. It looks like something might just be there. And I don't know who that is, because all of the major ones that I know aren't there. They're somewhere else doing their own thing. I can't discern what it would be, but she's clearly got something going on.
So you think it may be modern demon that's kind of slipped under the radar?
Either that or maybe something entirely different. Something's definitely there, though, so I'd keep an eye out.
Too right. I'll keep an eye on that one. That sounds interesting to say the least, but hard to say if I'll actually go against them. I don't think they've drawn it all yet.
That's true. You might not need it, but I figured I'd give you every chance I could.
That's fair. I'll take any advantage I can get just to be on the safe side.
Alright, look at that. Look a little less, high school. A little bit more.
Not more refined.
I'm so tempted to make like a trying to convince a Tool fan to move out of the back closet of a fucking tailor. The vibes just hit different here, man.
Okay.
But yeah, he he's just basically like patting this kobold on the head for their good work. You are free to add your own canon to how the suit looks. I didn't want to add too much because I wanted to be like leave it fully for you to customize and do whatever you want.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not going to be that much different than his regular stuff. Just a little bit more flare spike, and obviously some additional adornments. I imagine he's got a little Aussie crest, in addition to the pentagram on there, because it's kind of just tradition.
Yeah, you got a little cobalt patch on there too.
It just happens to
hell
look like a
yeah.
bad dragon image for kobolds.
No, no.
Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! I'm cracking open my sketchbook as we fucking speak.
You another little fun feature you notice about this uniform specifically is that it is fireproof. It does not respond to the flames that you produce.
Well, that's good. As if it's just my regular get up, then it'd be a real shame if I got the nude every time I had to try to light up.
Yeah, I don't think that that's your brand of marketing.
Yeah, not quite. I've done some striking in my time. I mean, to be fair, you've heard some of that debauchery, but cocaine's a hell of a drug.
That it is. That it is. I don't think, though, I think I'm a little bit old to be thinking about starting a new business suddenly.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'll leave that to the younger sort to figure out. Anyway, I think that is you all set up, or at least as far as I can. I wish I could tell you more, honestly, but hands are tied.
No, I understand. There's politics and all that shit, but either way, I know there's more risk this time, and I'm gonna do my damnedest to take this seriously, because for one, all these little boys counting on me, but beyond that, I can't. I don't want to see another kingdom fall to the same old bullshit over and over again, same cycle of politics, and I prefer not to have to kill another queen just take the place. I mean, especially if it's one of ours, but just in case the off chance somebody else won this competition, don't really want that, but or to have unusual influence be applied to whoever takes a seat of power.
Well, it seems like you're a bit late on the second part, but we do what we can.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to say the least. But all that say, you can't predict the future. You can only roll with the punches and all that shit.
Damn straight. He just he slaps you on the crest. Or on the back pattern thing. Yeah. Yippee. I don't know
Yippee.
I don't know the anatomy of a fucking leather jacket. I'm sorry. I need like Garn to be a translator for that sort of
I mean, if you're slapping the pentagram, it'd be like center of the back. If you're slapping a patch,
yeah.
it'd be more on the front shoulders.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like a better insignia marking thing.
You could call it that.
Fuck it. Sure. You can tell how knowledgeable and big brain I am. Yay.
Clearly, trust is the leather biker bit.
Yeah, that's right. You just didn't know it. Yeah, I own 3 fucking shit gov deal motorcycles that all explode randomly, and I fix with my tools that I have in my beat up garage that has 3 stashes of beer.
You know what to do.
Hmm?
I said, Meef, you know what to do.
What, draw Orion as an
I'm on it,
alcoholic?
boss.
I'm in biker bitch
Oh,
Orion,
okay. Well, there you go. I was like,
but or
no.
biker bitch Fern.
That would be funny. All right, Solstice, what you doing? How you spending your time prior to getting ready for the tournament?
Solstice is outside playing with his swords. He's doing tricks and getting used to how they function together. He's like shooting him off and reeling him back in and fucking just mess around.
Bro's playing with the yo-yo. That's nuts.
Uh,
You mean these nuts?
I would make
I
a
already have
more
5.
I would make a more pain noise like a goblin being stomped, but unfortunately that would require me being very loud.
It's all right. People typically are loud when they get these nuts.
I hate you. Take it. Take it from Alex's hat. Fine. 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 Anyway,
but yeah, kind of just warming up. I mean, Alice is sheep. So
yeah,
he has a
Alice is still
rosary and
ED.
shit.
Chronically ED.
Just waiting for the time he's gonna go, I guess. Have something to
Okay.
eat.
Yeah. Alright. I guess we'll cut over to Tara to finish it out then.
Okey-dokey. Let me grab my track real quick.
Let's see here. It'll be a while since we've seen this one. Oh, I
Whoa.
made a
Holy shit!
terrible mistake.
Holy shit, we still have this one. I can't believe you still
Yes.
had this map.
It's kind of fucked up a lot of things. It's okay. We're gonna pretend that it didn't. We're gonna pretend that it didn't. It's okay. Pretend that it didn't.
Tara got warped into RPG Maker.
Yes, this is an RPG.
It happens sometimes.
Yes, I recognize the assets.
Give me a second to make sure I got the wrong song here. Or the wrong, yeah, let me make sure I have the wrong song here. That's great.
Let me see if I can't like resize this because it's not supposed to be that fucking big. God damn it.
Make Tara bigger.
It's okay, I can be a small. I'm gonna put 2 songs in. I'm gonna do the second one first. It's gonna fuck it up if I run them or.
No, you're good.
All right, cool. I remember that being like an issue back in the day, so wanted to be
Image,
thoughtful on that.
canvas size. Yeah, why? It's 400 pixels. Why is it fucking massive? The fuck?
It's probably applied it to the same size as your previous thing because it looks stretched.
I mean, I don't care. I don't care to work with it. Pixel
fuck it.
busted
Yeah,
or
we'll
whatnot.
we'll
Yeah,
fix it later.
It's back from Tara's past, so it's supposed to look like retro stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that flavoring for it. Actually, would like to grab some of your guys' flavoring for this if you don't care. If you'd be
Sure.
up for that.
Yeah.
Wanted to have her find some items from around the house, and I would love to have you guys be a part of flavoring that if you would be okay with it. I'll grab a couple things myself, but yeah. Would any of you guys be comfortable with that, or do you have something that comes to mind?
I mean, I'm trying to not be utterly evil when you ask me to do things like that.
Pots and pans.
You can be evil. I will 100% take evil.
A big ass
Oh.
cast iron skillet. One of them heavy motherfuckers that make you question the mortality of your wrist when you pick it up.
Oh, hell yeah.
And her mentor's bong.
A rubber duck.
What a perfect time for that to come in. As Tara steps onto the old property, she squishes a completely mangled rubber duck, and it lets out a deflated As she's been passing through the neighborhood, she saw a couple of the old sisters of Malice hanging out on their docks. One of them playing the harmonica. They got nothing they're doing anymore. They're just chilling out in the swamp back again where they all started off at.
God, they're rednecks.
You shut your whore mouth? Yes, they are.
Do we have a Dungeon Soup quote counter?
You don't want the funny number to
You'll-
be that.
No, I don't.
You little shit. Anyways, rolling back in. She gets back into her old house. This is not the one that, this is the one she was living before she moved in with the Sisters of Malice and ended up being at the Andromeda facility. These are the roots, the grassroots. As she goes inside, she finds some of her old experiments. A lot of them completely busted up and broken. But what she was hoping to find, she did. A couple little odds and ends of ingredients that she can take back to the ship and salvage that actually managed to be dried right, cared for properly, and didn't manage to get lost to time. So she shuffles all that into her inventory, along with a cast iron that she ends up slinging over her back. What was the other one? There's another fun one that was in there.
So,
Is that
so the
Hermentor's
bong?
bong?
Renter's bong. Bet. I will bring that in next. As she leaves, she spots a tower that is nearby. And don't have to do that. We're just gonna use the well for that. Oh, wait, that's someone else. Never mind.
No, that's right.
Goodbye.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's okay. I'm bringing them back. No worries. She's gonna head for the tower. Is this someone that's right there, or is this a placeholder for Cinna?
Senna,
Perfect.
would you like me to run Senna, or would you like to run Senna? How would you want to do that?
I would love. Do you have some ideas for what you'd like to do with that?
Sure, I could do that.
I'm asking if you have an idea. If not, I will run it.
You go for it. You do it. It's okay.
All right. Cool.
When did this turn
As
into
she-
fucking inscription?
I like that. She climbs up the tower, sits up, and looks out over the plateau of the Endless City. She remembers that she used to try to garden here in the swamp, and how she used to come up here and she used to dream of looking out and seeing just nothing but plants and food as far as the eye could see. Instead of the swamp where everything is dark and murky, beautiful, clean water out across the sands. That has been her dream for a long time.
Remember you
before-
traded that to Vasha?
She still wanted to be a gardener.
Oh,
She's
okay.
not dreaming of an orchard anymore.
Sure.
That was like what she wanted. That's what she used to want to have, was she wanted to be able to have an orchard of her own. She still used to dream about the oasis before she actually made a manageable goal for herself. This is the big dream.
Fair.
Yeah. If you want to bargain for that being gone too, like I can roll with that as a fiction.
Oh no, I don't. I was just messing with you.
Okay, you're allowed to mess with. As she is looking out, she smells something on the air. From the shadows walks Cinna, gesturing a bong her way. Well, that's a hell of a way to say hello. Are you gonna have it or not? Fuck it. And they both sit down and Tara shares a little bit about what the view used to be like from here. And Cinna gestures back. I used to fucking follow you up here all the time anyways. How the fuck did I was able to get you back to work? After a bit of ribbing back and forth, Tara turns to her and a bit more seriously goes, I'm in pretty deep on this one. I'm representing for the Arisu. I'm supposed to be in this tournament. I didn't want the power to go to anyone worse than Rez, any worse than what we've been through before. But now I gotta figure it out. I actually have to take this seriously. I can't just act like I can just hew my way through this. She just like shakes her hands out at Senna. And I actually think I will take a hand with Senna because I am struggling
I got it.
to manage both sides of a thought process
I got it.
myself. So I'm gonna tag you in if you're good with that.
Well, I guess it is time for you to finally start asking the big questions. If you're going to be the one in power, what is it you want to do?
She gestures out towards that huge plateau. We've been fighting to get imported food for ages. We've been growing it underground. Don't believe you me, it works. But still, Endless City has had a food struggle and water issue for forever. You've seen the muck in the rivers. You've seen how, you remember the dankness of the swamp.
Yeah, the kobolds.
I mean,
have done a
not
great
this
job.
dankness. This one can stay. She jiggles the bong.
It'll be good to have an icon of what we're doing.
But I just want to actually have the factions work together on this. We build each other, we build each other up all the time within the factions. Then when they all get together, they can keep some things together as far as what we want to do, but when it boils down to it, it would work a lot better if we actually had everyone in step with it. Not just one set ordering everyone around with it. So I've been rallying for Luna on this one. Much as I know what I'd like, she's definitely someone who has actually spent the time in the politics to know how to do it right. I think that with her organization and with all the different strengths that the factions bring, it's actually got a shot. We were a tiny faction ourselves, and fucking look what we did.
Yeah, and what it's worth, I think it'll take one of us having been through that fall to know how to avoid it again.
Never again. Power's not meant to be used and wielded in that.
She's gonna try like to take a little bit aback from that, and she's like, "Well, if you're
Wait,
go ahead,
what do you mean?
because what you repeat what you said. I want to make sure I heard you correctly."
Basically, never again to create magic like they did with the kiln, like long term.
Oh yeah,
The experimentations.
yeah.
Which if Senna doesn't agree with that and actually like thought it was worth it in the end or whatever, like fucking roll with
Oh
that.
no, she kind of takes a step back. I mean, if that's your goal now, if that's your view, you are helping one of the results of that.
What do you mean?
The kid you brought that turned out to be a viable solution, right? Solstice, I think his name was. You're helping
Yeah.
him get stronger, I would assume. Get more of a handle of how he is.
Yeah, but I'm wanting him to actually take the bad he was gone through and put it to good.
Has it worked?
She kind of stops and thinks a second. I think in some ways, yeah, it has, but in others, it's also been really dangerous to navigate. I won't lie, I've been out of my depth a lot of time when I've been trying to help.
Maybe that's not something that's your job anymore.
But I'm like one of the only people who might be able to even get it or be able to
Sure.
help with it.
I'm not saying you have to abandon them, but I am saying maybe it's time you let him walk on his own. Maybe your goals aren't so same, or maybe fuck. That's all. Cannon, by the way, she coughs on the bottom. Like, you know, maybe it's time for him to find his own path, and maybe it's time for you to do the same.
Tara huffs and she fucking slams her tail against the porch. It's like she's frustrated. She's not full mad. She's like, that's not the first time I've been told that lately.
Being a martyr is only good for a little while.
That M word keeps on showing up. She grabs her horns and like pulls them back. No, point taken. I know I can't factor just his well-being into what I'm doing next, or even after that. But it is something that has been hard to let go of. I can admit to that. When you feel like something's been your fault for so long, it's pretty hard not to always assume responsibility for it.
Sure, but ultimately a lot of that's out of your control. And what's going to be more important is what you can do from now on. And I know what you said, but if you need an idea, and she kind of leans in and whispers in your ear.
I'm sorry, I opened up my message just to see what you might be sending, and I just get a message from Raphael says the food goes in the food hole. I was just like, what sort of fucking wisdom is this from Cinna? I'm like, oh, that's not Cinna. Whoa. As Cinna tells her that, the fucking hackles on the back of her neck stand up.
Now listen, I know that sounds bad. I get it, but it might be an option. I'm not saying you have to, and I'm not saying it's a good decision, but I am saying it is something that might work. If there's anyone I trust to have that, and to do that, and to carry that out, or to at least go there in the first place, it's gonna be you.
She has been gripping the side of the edge of the platform and just slowly releases it to look Cinna in the eye. I will consider it.
That's all I'm asking. I recognize the gravity of that, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but it is the only solution I have for you. Sure, it's a backup plan, but it's one that's good to consider. You don't know what's in the future, and you don't know what your friends are going to do. If you trust them, I suppose I do too, but I keep your eyes open.
Tara remembers to breathe.
They just like their jaw just pops up and you hear.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like just hears her do a whale fucking crawl. Walrus yawning. It's when she kind of reels her thoughts back to what she's going to ask Senna for is for a more immediate concern as well. What do you think that she should do for the fight? Or is that the solution that she has for the fight?
She just kind of like blinks a few times, like, fight.
Yeah, honestly, that's fucking spot on for her. Very good. With that, it's like drops a bombshell, asks another questions.
I mean, did you
With
expect me
that,
to say something else? Like, I can't tell you how to talk your way out of a
You're
fight.
right. You're right. Tara's already turning and walking away.
I don't
She's
know if
holding
I
up
need to tell you this,
the
but you
flask that
don't.
she is now told.
Yeah, as you're like trying to walk away from her, she's like, I don't know if I need to tell you this, but you don't have to please your opponent. It's okay if they don't like you. They're kind of not supposed to.
Tara turns, looks back, fucking squints her eyes, and throws down the fucking bong to go fucking tackle Cinna. Full quarterback flatline this bitch.
Vivi!
Vivi!
Hey, if you want to hop in, you're welcome to. If not, that's totally fair. We are in the middle of Tara throwing fucking hands while being. I think she's greening out. Don't worry about it. Yeah. If you want to just chill though, that's totally fair. However you want to play it. Yippee, continue, Tara.
No, I actually I like that fiction for it. Basically, the thing of it is that she's just been told it one too many times recently on like the people pleasing note, and she is like, I am going to fucking beat you up versus a warm up.
And on that kind of path.
That's fucking funny. I'm sorry, if I had a femme fatale character, Tara is certainly not them.
No, they're more grim fatale. I'm more of a gremlin, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, lethal, yes, but gremlin all the way.
Oh yeah.
It does Cinna fight back? Or are we waiting on Vivi to get in call?
Oh no, I was waiting for whatever you want to do with that.
Okay. If you didn't have a fight back sort of mentality for it, we can definitely call a scene there. Basically a tackle and like
I think
huff
she would
off afterwards sort of
accept
thing.
it. And then like, you know, I mean, and also for what it's worth, you do have, I don't know if you remember the whole we in the middle of Vivi. Yeah. um so it's like, you know, and I don't know if you recall this, but the last time we met, the last time we were really angry at each other, you got given like, I don't know, the most powerful weapon our faction had. Use it.
Oh yeah. Actually, question on that.
Sure.
I'm still figuring out its use cases.
Oh, I don't know
I
what it
guess I'll-
does.
I-
I just
I'll-
know it was a big important
I'll have
thing
to
that
noodle
wasn't
around
supposed to
for-
be touched. I didn't touch
Oh
it.
yeah, that's right.
I was the same rank as you.
Yippee! I've shot people. It's been great.
Oh, what'd it do?
for uh for Solstice, it ended up messing with an alternate alter ego they were facing.
Oh, there's two.
Made it go away for a while.
Sounds like a good thing. Sounds like a good idea. I mean, listen, if it messes with magic and you're fighting wizards, that sounds like a good thing, probably.
Tara is turtlenecked after her going, oh, there's two, going, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that.
Look, it's none of my business
Wait
what
a
you do
second.
with your people, but I'm just saying.
That's fair. No one's been asking about him. Yeah. Have you heard anything like that?
I'm going to be honest, the majority of us have taken to being in the shelter of the kobolds. Not much of us are going out and causing problems. We're a bit beyond that. We're trying to recover the people and the resources we had. Maybe get a chance to become something later, but for now, just staying down low. And for what it's worth, we didn't talk today.
I am perfectly good with that myself. But yeah, it just basically kind of made an entire power system fade off for a second. That's the part that I don't quite. It made it seemed like it made an entire magic system fade off from someone.
Well, that's
it
even
was
better.
their constellation dimmed.
She's like, I see this as an absolute win. This is perfect.
You know what?
An anti-wizard weapon against wizards. That's pretty good.
Huh. I'll try it as a use case for that.
I mean, the worst thing you can do is make them not. I mean, the worst thing you do is make them as confused as you are, and I mean that's gonna help anyway.
I can work with confusion.
Exactly. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. You know how it is.
Gaslight. Wait. No! She takes off. She takes off with things out. Hey, she's connected. She's in. Let's go.
Yay! Yeah, we'll end that scene there, and then we'll
Sounds good. Yeah. I know you're wanting to get folks in.
Oh, and if you had more, we can do that. But I didn't think you did. I didn't want to put pressure on you to keep going.
Yeah.
You didn't.
No, I good.
There we go.
Yay! Back at ship.
It's where is
Where'd I go?
Solbus? Where did he go?
Where am I? I'm over here. Oh.
Do not hit
Where do I-
Alex, you terrible
I
soul.
didn't see it.
You
I'm
hit
sorry,
Alex. I cannot believe you. Unfucking believable. Alice, while you were gone, you collapsed from exhaustion, and just absolutely hit the fucking deck. You got cursed with Ultra EP.
Damn, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Did you? Oh, Pepsi. Did you want to do the thing that you were talking about?
No, it's okay. I can hang out tonight. I wasn't expecting to join, so.
Okay, works for me. With that, it is getting about time for the tournament to start. Prepare yourselves, for it is about time to fucking ball. Stop being a loading screen.
My rotation.
I can't click and drag you anymore because I'm loading something, so.
You're welcome. I love being the loading in the corner of my Xbox 360 game.
Questions of the tournament, if I may.
Sure.
What is and isn't allowed? Or is it the same rules as the before?
Yes and no, respectively, to those questions. It
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to what we're looking at then.
Everything is basically just about anything's allowed. They've tried to impose rules but haven't been successful. due to the destabilization of a at the hand of a certain Fae.
I regret nothing.
Yes, tournament. Basically, Dino, the Endless City, the kingdom we are currently in, has been in a power vacuum from the previous ruler, Rez, being assassinated. Don't ask who. It's not important. And
Was us.
yeah, so
It was us.
I fucked up and misbalanced something, and so they killed the queen. And so that's my bad. It's my bad. So they have a tournament to decide who's strong enough to take that role. They have to be strong enough to fight off the other queens after all, so it better be someone fucking good. So this tournament is going to. It wasn't her fault. It was Firefly. Anyway, you hear over the loudspeaker, like the kind of, I'm just gonna say they're like magic horns, basically a little cobalt announcer. Welcome one, welcome all. Come one, come all, close to the tournament walls. We were going to have a static lineup, but instead it turns out we're going to have to do something a little bit different. All combatants, if you are present, I would like to see you in the arena. Please, all combatants, turn to the arena. All +1s, you are allowed to be in the stands. Make your way there. We'll have the extra people come in later on. You are welcome to take the platforms for the factions that you represent if you would like to. Otherwise, you can sit in the bleachers, in the stands.
Where are the stands?
The stands are kind of like around the outside. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna be completely fucking honest with you. I was like, I want it. I
Sure.
didn't realize how big this was. Yep, Luna. We're gonna have this be fucking. Actually, you know what? We're gonna have. Where is it? Oh, we're gonna have. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do Kiwi like that. We're gonna see that this is marks, and this.
You have 2 marks.
And we're just gonna make that color of like. There we go. So yes.
I
So
assume Allison or Ryan, you're joining me in the bleachers.
this. Well, I am at least. Where is Orion? I don't actually know where I put her. Ah, she's over next to the fern boxes. Excellent.
Alice?
I'm just gonna put her here for now, and we can fix that later. Anyway, yeah. All combatants, all I need you to do is remember, when the tournament starts, there are no rules. You will be paired in one-on-one brackets where you will slowly climb the ranks until you are the last one standing. You may at any time forfeit. If you forfeit, you are allowed to leave the arena without being harmed. Do keep this in mind. Beyond that, anima are allowed. External magic forces are allowed. Pray to gods, use your wits, anything you have on hand. To begin, please draw your cards.
Wait, this is to the death?
That is an actual deck that will
No,
the
no,
matching.
I said this is to the death.
If you wish.
Yeah, it's till the other person gives up. So
I suppose
Either they
incapacitation.
give up or their heart gives up,
Yep.
whatever.
So Fire Fist, Terra, and Solstice, you will be drawing for yourselves. I will draw for Nova, and Wreath, you can feel, or I will draw for Luna, and Wreath, you can feel free to draw for Nova or Marks, whichever one you want.
Sure, I'll draw for Nova.
Mitch,
And
do
then
you want to
she
grab your
shall-
card?
Yep. Terra, feel free to grab a card from. Yeah.
It's the one in the middle.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting myself turned around so I have my side.
And then by default, Marks will be the last one. So, Luna has the Queen of Diamonds. Looks like Luna
Flip
and
over,
Marks
bitch.
will
There
be
we
the
go.
first battle.
How do you flip?
You get F. For
There you go.
flip.
Wow,
The
that's-
second battle will be Terra versus Nova.
Oh no.
And the
Fuck.
Wait,
third
who's
be
battle one? Sorry.
Fuck.
pardon?
Luna versus Nova. Or
No,
Luna
Nova
versus
versus
Mark, sorry.
and then Nova versus Terra, and then Fire Fist versus Solstice.
Oh my god.
Well, that's gonna be
Oh
interesting.
boy. Oh god.
Can't just forfeit.
You can, but where's the fun in that?
You are the indie card.
There we go.
So
That
you're
way I
gonna
can
kill me,
remember.
right, Firefist? I don't like that answer.
I'm still wondering what those cards are on the side.
Oh, those aren't useful right now. Don't worry about it.
I
The
mean, you told us
curiosity.
Okay. I need something a little less.
Oh yeah. Do whatever you want to. I just wanted it to be lively. The Endless City is having a huge fuck all
Oh,
party.
absolutely, yeah. There are like banners flying fucking everywhere.
This is the time for gluttony and like bloodlust to have its full reign. Like
you know what?
it
Fuck
is
it.
a
Yeah,
goddamn
we can
good
do
time.
that. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah. You're right. All right, combatants, please take your positions. Yeah. So, mundane to mundane. Let's start with talk, okay? Sure. I'd be delighted. All right. Combatants, please take your positions and in 3, 2, 1. You may begin at any time. Una starts out by she like takes the rifle out of like a little back holster and holds it in her hands, like ready to use it, but she's clearly not looking for a fight. Look, I don't know what rather I guess I know what your plan is, but if you're willing to work with us, I can assure you we have this well under control. We'd be happy to side with you. We'd be happy to do what we can. Uh, and you hear Mark say, well, yes, I'm sure you would. However, I think I have something that may change the tide in my favor. And I think it would be wise of you to let me go on so that I stand a chance. You don't know if that other thing's going to win, and if it does, I want to be the one to ensure your victory. Sure, but no offense, you are a mundane, and we're not wizards. So how are you going to do that exactly? Marks finally takes the bag off of this large chandelier object, and you see that it is a large, like circular object that has multiple different colors of crystals that are aligned within its sides. Looks like there are 7 in total on the outside and 1 massive one in the center. Some of the crystals are cracked, but the red, the orange, and the golden one are, or sorry, the red, the gold, and the white one are very much intact.
God. Is this the fucking thing Firefist got a crystal for?
See, there's a lot of things that the kingdoms have tried in the past. There's a lot of things. And when they are too dangerous, or when they can't be trusted around wizards anymore, it comes to us. This lovely thing is something I am not supposed to have. No one's supposed to have. This is how I was able to tell what was wrong with your ship. it reacts to and changes magic that it finds and that it's exposed to. So, catch my drift? I'll be able to go forward, even if my opponent is a wizard. I've survived this far, and I do not plan on dying. Now, I want to ask the council the question. There is a choice here. The choice will change drastically how all this goes. Luna has a chance to do something a bit silly. Actually, she has a few options. I want the council to decide whether she forfeits and gives it to Marks, whether she attacks him and says, "Fuck it," and just shoots him with a gun, or whether she tries to use the tiara on the device.
Oh, that's problematic.
Option 3 is interesting. I don't know how I feel about
I
that.
find I like it. I like it. I want to see what happens. Science, bitch.
Smart ass to me is like number 2. Just pull gun point blank, shoot. It's like, well, that problem solved. the fuck around and find out portion does think is intrigued by number 3.
So,
You're so right.
which one you guys want to choose? You want her to give up? You want her to shoot the guy, or would you like her to try using the tiara?
Nice argument, Marks. How about you back up with the source? My source that made the fuck up. Cool. Bang.
We got 2 votes
Is that
for
a
Bang, I think.
I'm fine with
I know that
bang.
mine was the bang. Oh, using the tier on it and see what happens. Oh no,
I
wait,
think
no, that was the
everybody's-
second one.
Everybody's voting shooting him in the face. Is shooting him, I think.
Totally fair. I can dream, Harold. I can dream.
I'm curious about the tiara too, but I think there's just 2 of us.
So,
I mean, yeah, okay.
sure.
Worst case, terror
you
can
can go.
happen
You can
after
go,
the gun.
Shusty.
Okay, so which one are you guys choosing? Which one's the majority?
I think gun is the majority.
Okay.
You can do that, or since you have 2 that are kind of close, you can flip a coin, not tell us, and we have to find out and play.
That's true.
Ooh,
Do you
I like
want me to flip the
that.
coin?
Please, I love that option. Like it's that sounds fun as hell.
Sure. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Sorry, Tara. If it lands on the diamond, we'll have her shoot. If it lands on
No,
the crown,
don't tell us. Yeah,
Oh.
don't tell us which one.
Yeah, don't tell us which one it is.
You will know. We will not. We'll find out and play.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck it.
Exactly. I like the element of surprise with that. That's fun.
All right. Luna's hand. Hold on. Let me grab something. I need a specific song real quick.
Ooh, yay! I like this. This is fun.
I will say it is really funny if he goes on about how this thing reshapes magic and she just shoots him with a mundane gun.
She just
It
fucking
would be
don't know.
really funny.
Yeah.
Initially, this was going to be
Magic's
your.
so cool.
Initially, this was going to be your battle solstice, and the reason for it was that I was going to make you pry it from his cold, dead fucking hands if you wanted to win. I'm very
You realize
kind.
I also have non-magical weapons.
Sure.
Huh? Okay, well, anyways,
So Luna,
what does Luna do?
yeah. So, fucking Terra. So,
What?
She
can't-
does
you
tear
can't
out,
take-
yeah.
so Luna grabs something. It's hard to tell from a distance what exactly she's doing, but she prepares something, and suddenly you hear the gut-wrenching sound of glass shatter. Marks is very, very afraid. He takes a step back, a few steps back. He falls to the ground in horror of what he's witnessed. The chandelier-looking
Sure.
object, the Ausback, every crystal has shattered.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
You see,
Oh yeah.
you feel something welling up from inside of the arena. Something strong. Something very, very potent. You can almost smell the magic in the air. If you have fur, it is standing up. If you have fire, it is flickering. If you have anything that glows, it is glowing very brightly. The lights, the crystals, and everything else around the arena that is powered by magic crack and pop. They burn out. You see Luna have a maelstrom of power around her. Her skin cracks and glows. You see large scales begin to go down her arms and down her legs. And you see very large wings begin to sprout from her back.
No. 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 No.
Um,
You just killed the favorite NPC.
He's not dead.
She's a dragon. She might as well be dead. Trust me, I said
She's
this
just turning into
conversation
Scaly. It's
yesterday.
fine.
No, you don't understand what this means. Trust. Oh, we just. Is that why you were so willing to have a conversation with me? You bitch.
Oh shit.
So, Luna
Oh.
takes in a very deep breath. And as she exhales, you see a just miasma of colors erupt from their mouth. When she speaks, it sounds like there are many voices speaking at one time. I get it now. I finally understand. That's why everyone's here. That's why everyone keeps coming to this world. Oh, I can see so many things now. Oh, it's finally time. This must be what you guys feel like all the time. She looks over to you guys standing here. That would be Solstice, Firefist, and Terra. And you see that there are like prismatic tears that are falling down her eyes. This is. This is what power's like. I don't have to sit in the vacuum anymore. I don't have to sit by. She like raises her left hand and Marks just floats off the ground. Looks like you're the only mundane
Holy
left
shit.
in the arena. I'm not gonna kill you. And I'm not gonna betray you either. But the world changes today. And it's time we reshape it in my image. You see, like, Nova is they're like, "Uh, um, okay, okay. Perhaps I was a little bit rude when I attacked you earlier. Maybe I had just a little bit of malice in my
Yeah, really.
vein. You
You
know,
don't say.
things happen. You know, things happen. Ha 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 ha. And this is when you see Mark's very scared. Say, okay, that's it. I forfeit. You go forward. I'm sorry. You go forward. Just, please. Remember, you are still human. Maybe wizards. Don't lose yourself in this. It's where everyone goes wrong. That's where you know everyone else has gone wrong. Please. If anyone can figure it out, it's gonna be you. Not everyone gets the chance to remain themselves and get that kind of power. God help you.
Now, this is problematic.
Marx hits the dirt, and as Luna stands, her foot hitting the ground just shoots a pulse of sand away from it. As she walks towards you, it is almost sickening the amount of power you feel out of her. It's honestly hard to stand near her. You hear multiple voices speaking at one time. Hi, guys. I did it. I figured this was the backup plan.
You holding up okay in there?
I don't know if this is permanent. But for now, I don't think we have to worry about winning the tournament. I don't think
Yep.
we have to worry about anyone getting
Mhm.
hurt.
Nope.
Remains to be seen.
Luna snaps her head toward Nova, who just freezes in place. I see through you. I finally can see people for what they are. I know what you are. Puppet. Yeah, I see who's hiding behind. I see who has your strings. You thought you could finally get it done with a gambit, didn't you? You thought by preying on someone like us, you'd get what you wanted. I dare you to try. You're up. And she
And
kind
with
of
that,
sits by.
sorry.
Go ahead. Yep.
I was asking you to quick 5:15.
Yeah.
But please finish what you said about how she sits.
She just sits next to you, Solstice, and the ground's kind of the seat beneath her is kind of melting, actively as she's sitting there.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Just a quick 5, if you don't mind, and I'll be right back.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm gonna go get concessions, and walks off to go get a fucking churro.
No, it's
Don't do anything too crazy. I don't know if you continue to.
Yep. He's gonna go get a churro. By that I mean he's gonna open his door and go.
He's gonna go clear the shit from his drawers for what just happened.
He's gonna open his door for oh my god, I can't believe what just happened. Welcome to this house. Okay, holy fuck. Anyway, I need water. Holy shit. She's still lucid for now. We don't know how long that's gonna last. The way that we have seen this tiara activate before is that it kind of offers a little bit of a buffer between what you're doing, what you're using, and yourself. But it doesn't offer a lot of a buffer. So, it's gonna be an interesting 24 hours at the very least. You've given a bean the power of a god. You're welcome.
Yep.
Tara is genuinely just curious and scoots in closer to Luna.
Mhm.
do you know what these are made of? And she kind of like gestures to the prismatic tears.
They're magic. Of a bunch of different kinds. I don't have access to them all, but turns out they all come from the same root.
Would you care if I took one or two of them to experiment on? I will give you something that you want for it.
First day being wizard, I've already got a bargain. Sure, take them. Be careful.
Tara does a fist pump. Yes, first bargain.
Reith whispers to Ryan, "Your sword stays away until we resolve this."
Oh yeah, just oh my god, thank you. Thank you so much.
Plus,
I got you. Oh
Oh.
my god, you're anonymous, but thank you. I appreciate you. Ryan's like, yeah. I, I, I don't think he would like her right now.
He wouldn't.
No. Uh.
We'll give Unknown another minute, because if I do anything important, he just needs to take notes.
yeah.
I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick.
Yeah, take a drink.
Sounds
Take a
good.
Yeah.
sip. Get a sippy. It is time.
I'm resisting grabbing my second beer. These things are strong.
Oh. Wait. Oh, not what I meant to do.
Um, let's fucking go. Not only was my panel approved, but it also has a fucking schedule. Let's
Now
go.
you have to actually do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's fine. Welcome back.
Who is that?
What, the panel that I'm doing?
No, who came back?
Oh, Vivi.
Oh. Hi, Vivi.
Vivily Puff.
Hello.
Vivi, you're cute,
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
and I miss you.
Aw, miss you too.
All right.
Yippee.
I'm ready. I'm ready. If y'all ready to do this thing.
Reef is gonna pop over and gesture to, I guess Marks is gonna move over. So, how much trouble's that gonna be?
One second.
Trust?
That is more intense than I want it to be.
There we go.
This one, please.
Okay. What's happening? Sorry.
Reef went and checked on Marks and said, "How much trouble's that gonna be?"
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't know she could do that. I thought she could just take it from other wizards. I didn't know that that counted. I'm she's
Honestly, didn't know either. Wait, you knew?
well, she told me about it. We were chatting for a while when Alice was
Oh.
gone. She told me about the tiara and how she's used it before. I told her to be careful to not pull stunts like that on a whim. You never know what magic's going to do to you.
Yep. Yeah. This group, not everybody listens to me when I tell them that.
Yeah, it would seem so. She's been inspired by someone. Anyway,
Yeah.
I believe she has multiple magic systems running through her at one time. That is extraordinarily problematic. I don't know how to mix them well. I don't know that you can mix them all, and by the way she's talking, I am very scared that she has learned.
Sounds like she has. Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, and hope she can keep it together. Cause I don't
And
know what's gonna come to if she loses it.
and also, I don't know what happens if she doesn't. All that power has to go somewhere, right? And I don't know where that's gonna go when the effect wears off.
Hmm. Hmm.
If we die, that's how it is.
Yep.
Is this my card?
I'm gonna DM you an idea real quick.
Sure. I'll keep that
Oh.
covered real quick. What's up?
Where's your thing? See?
Fucking phenomenal music to draw to, by the way.
Heck yeah. Oh, net go bow. I was planning on this. I was planning on having initially in the first draft of this. I was gonna have Luna fight Nova. Um,
How do you feel with giving it a different
oh,
life?
it's fun. It's fun. So the reason I did that was because it was gonna end up with Luna versus Nova, Marks versus Solstice, and then you versus Firefist. And I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to like get a chance to fight. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I got you.
I sent you my idea.
That is one of the options of all time and could work.
Okay. It sure is an option.
It's gonna be one of those where I'm like, I'm gonna have to ask you the forbidden words of "Are you sure?"
Oh no.
Anyway, so as Luna has made this decision, we're gonna have to flip over one of these funny cards. Hi, welcome to your first lethal zone. You have ventured very far and have begun toying with powers far beyond your pay grade. You are in an area. I did not mean to leave this enabled. No! Shut up! Stop the cat! We're going to disable DC. No, not the buffers. Wait. All right, there we go. I disabled all the effects. All right, I'm gonna flip that back over. I can't flip it back over. The cat's cucking me. All right, there we go. Oh my god, shut up. I'm not. Damn it. Wait. I forgot to switch Lumia. I was forgetting something in the wizard's mode. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Here we go.
Y'all are
Okay.
fucking gremlins, I
Alright.
swear to God.
We're great. Now that that's all done. Anyway, welcome to your first lethal zone. You have ventured too far and you have begun toying with powers far beyond your pay grade. You are in an area where every decision matters, every choice will change the world. Be cautious and be careful. Essentially, shit's a little fucked right now. You have someone who is effectively the magical equivalent of an atom bomb sitting next to you, and I don't know how that works. I'm gonna be honest. We're gonna be doing some funny little bargains with ourselves and deciding how that works as it goes along. Kinda, yeah, Vivi. That's kind of how it is. You see like Nova kind of sheepishly look over at Luna, and Luna just kind of like waves her hand like, "Go ahead, please, it's your fight." And you see her kind of like take her position. The announcer's like,
I'm muted.
go ahead.
Sorry. So before as she's walking away, Soul's like lean over to Luby, like, what would you react if I told her she attacked me earlier?
Well, I was going to make sure that I was thinking of. We'll figure it out.
So he like kind of back and looks at her. You know, part of me kind of hopes this is permanent. You're kind of scaring me, but I kind of like it.
She like looks directly at your eye. She like looks in your eyes, and it is very clear she's not looking at you. She's looking way the fuck through you. She's like, we have gone very far. Things are starting to take notice. It's gonna be really interesting from here on out. And if this is permanent,
Okay.
things are gonna stay really interesting.
Oh dear.
So,
Um,
go ahead.
Reef just quickly gestures towards Nova. What is she exactly? You were saying you can see what she is.
Calling her a Daemon host is a bit of a lie, bit of a fib. She is an intruder. Her job was to effectively do what I did. Worse, of course. And now she's scared because I have this power, and that means she's in trouble. What happens next is none of our concern, and it's probably going to be very out of her control.
Orion might need to deal with that one, but we'll see.
Will the combatants please take their places? If no combatants are found on the other side of the arena, we will have to forfeit.
Tara.
That's you, Tara.
That's you, Tara.
Mythix.
Yep.
Go
I'm
fight.
Here.
I got
iPad away.
I'm kind of at an interesting space here because Nova was supposed to like silence the whole playing field and be like a very intimidating force, but she's kind of shitting bricks right now. She's Nova's very
Welcome to Wizards,
yeah.
bitch.
Nova's Nova's like
You
shaking.
had a plan?
Nova's shaking
Had.
violently. She's like, oh, okay, so, and you hear like the announcer over the intercom be like, battle begins in 3, 2, 1. It's like, okay, listen, now I know that looks bad, but hear me out for just a second. Let me let's see.
I'm shooting.
You tried to kill my traumatized cat. Fuck you, bitch.
We're
On
gonna.
guard. Bang.
I do, however, know what I want to play for her.
Jesus Christ, Vivi.
Oh my god.
I mean, I actually quite like that option. I would like to tackle Nova the same way that I tackled Senna earlier and bite her ass.
I would also like to mention that Soul has her rosary and her Bible has a hole in it. A very large hell pistol
Yes,
shaped
and
hole.
I'm taking that into consideration. Sure. As yeah, I'm gonna say that she's too stunned to really figure out a way to fight back against that. You tackle her and she's like, what are you doing? For the love of, get off of me! And you see her eyes are glowing extremely bright red. In fact, her corruption is
Ooh.
glowing bright red.
Oh, that's kind of fucked.
Isn't it usually purple?
That is correct.
Uh-oh.
You see that her focus is like steaming. There is like something that is emanating from it. It is very, very bright. You guessed it, red. I, I'm, I'm, I'm scared. I don't know what this means. This hasn't happened before. The voice isn't speaking to me anymore.
Which voice?
There's something that's always here. It's always been here. It's always daunting me. It's always changing me around. It's always pulling me to different places, telling me what to do, telling me where to go, telling me who to speak to. I've tried to escape it, but nothing works. I've always tried to escape it, but nothing has ever worked, and it's quiet right now. I don't hear anything.
That's gotta be really jarring. Take a second to cool off from it. See if you can't deep breath in.
Tara, you're not supposed to be nice to your
She-
opponents.
She tries to like steady
Can I
her
breathe?
She tries to like steady her breath, and you see that underneath her a very large red, like very large red markings are starting to form in the ground below her.
Listen, forfeit the match. We can get you off stage. We can take a look at this.
I think it's a little late for that now.
Tara backs up. All right.
She like grabs her book and in a desperate attempt tries to open it, but it just melts in her hands. Okay. This is fine.
Ah,
This is fine. It'll be
Is
fine.
anything happening with that rosary of hers? The one
It
that's currently in Soul's
snaps in
back
your
pocket.
hands.
Oh shit.
You said there was
Uh-oh.
a symbol that was holding it together. It looked similar to the one that was on Jimmy's sword. Unfortunately, it's no longer.
Luna, do you know what's happening?
Yeah.
Looks like
That'll be a good time to.
Looks like our little traitor is now having to pay penance for what she hasn't done. She failed her mission.
Ah,
Let's see what punishment she gets. And you see a large spire of red erupt around Nova, and where she was, a large red scale remains.
A scale?
Like a massive
actual
red scale. Like an actual scale. Yes.
Uh-oh.
You do not see and you do not hear Nova anymore.
Oh,
Nova, this isn't funny. Are you showing off? Yeah? Over the intercom you hear, it appears we have a winner. Tara of the Endless City will be moving on to the next round.
Tara, get out of
Ryan's gonna
there.
Kill me.
Tara, come on, get out of
Ryan's gonna
there.
Kill me. Ryan's gonna kill me. Her hands are just on her head. She is not looking anybody in the face.
Ruth tries to inspect the scale. What does it appear to be?
It's draconic. It's a very large dragon scale.
Oh, that kind of scale.
Yeah.
Oh, scale, like a.
Yeah.
It's in.
Like it's an
I think
actual
you meant-
dragon scale that has just impaled the ground, basically.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, you said large scale. I think like a scale, like a weight scale.
I'm sorry.
Like one of those old.
what I assumed too.
Oh, yeah, you thought I was on some Evangelion shit.
Yeah, I thought you were for okay. Now that since we're saying she's encased in the scale, copy. Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to see what can I investigate it, see what I can figure out.
Sure. From what you can
Firefish
tell.
just looking on from the stand. I'm good.
Oh,
I
good.
succeed.
Good, Virus.
It's a firefish just looking on from the stand. It's like, God damn, it's a very good your comic lately. Is this a new fucking fad? It's like a not topic t-shirt.
Say not topic.
Yes.
Luna kind of shouts out from over the stages. I wouldn't worry about that wreath. There's nothing left. She's gone.
Like gone, or
You don't make deals with dragons because you don't want to pay the price when you fail.
oh,
So what is she? Is she in that scale? What do we do about this?
she's dead, is what Luna's saying.
I know, I get that, but what do we do about that? What do we do about the scale?
Reef telekinesis it out of the ring.
It
Figure
is
that
like
out.
the size of, so this scale's about like the size of the Martyr of Starlight.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, it's fucking huge.
I do not telekinesis it out the ring.
Like, you can try, but that's gonna take a little bit. Orion's
Well, shit.
just like stunned. She can't speak. She doesn't really know. She's really, really out of it. Her eyes are kind of not registering.
Soul's gonna go over and like touch her on the shoulder, like, "Hey, Ryan, are you with us?"
Oh, finally I am. Hi, how's it going? You see her eyes like light up green, and she moves in a very unnatural way.
Oh shit.
What? Um,
Yeah,
who
the
are
brat
you?
fell asleep. Apparently the shock was so bad it actually cracked the cage. It's all good. She'll be back with you in a moment. But for now, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Oh, hey,
You
Jimmy.
avoided my question. Who the fuck's? Oh,
Owner of the sword, pleasure. Looks like you've gotten yourself in quite a pickle.
yeah, that's one way to say it.
So that might
Honestly,
be. Go ahead.
I think we have two pickles here now, and you're one of them.
You know, I heard something about about putting cucumbers next to cats. Don't freak out on me now.
Please don't touch me.
No, I'm not here to kill any of you. My job's to get rid of dragons. Don't worry. I'm beginning to realize maybe I wasn't given a contract for a reason. Seems like I might have been put here as a backup. Don't know why I'm confined to the brat though, but we take these problems one step at a time, don't we? And he he just grabs the sword, and you can see as he like raises his arm to kind of like stretch with it in his hand. Sigils you have never seen that are bright white, and then yellow light down the blade. Oh, that's more like it. Finally. Not my own body, but it'll do for a little bit. So, have we seen a dragon yet? I see the scale.
No, just
Oh, that's
we
sad.
have not seen. It's the scale appeared and took and killed someone Ryan was close with, which is why she fell asleep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I don't typically, well, I guess I'd be a bit of a hypocrite there, but I don't recommend making deals with dragons.
That's the second time someone said it tonight.
What did you say, sir?
That's the second time someone said it tonight.
Well, if it keeps being said, it might be good advice. So, looks like your friend's getting a little drunk on power. That's none of my concern. Been a draconic, I find it fucking sick. But, you know, my disgust is none of your business. And frankly, I don't want to be any of my business too. Whatever happens to your friend, is far beyond my pay grade. I will
Great.
say,
Awesome.
it's probably gonna draw some eyes.
We're
Yes,
not afraid of that at this point.
we kind of are. Is this
Shut up. Shut up. It's
Jimmy?
fine. We're fine.
dumb question?
Nice.
I keep
Nice
hearing the
touch.
name Pride come up.
That's my boss. The one and only.
That I assume this is not his doing over there?
No, you know. That
Cool.
is Wrath. He's a spicy boy. Doesn't like having shit that might threaten his oh so great reign come along. Even if it's in other people's territory.
Why are they all named after cardinal sins? Is greed something worse than we expect?
Oh, him? No. Don't worry about him.
Okay.
That little
Cool.
faction, whatever, nonsense. I'm not worried about this. There is a greed. I've killed him before. That's actually what I'm made for. But he's not around now, unfortunately. I would very much like to stab him again, but... Oh,
Okay, alright, okay. You fight dragons. Awesome.
yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, just like you guys. I don't know. My job, as per my contract with my boss, is to kill dragons who have crossed the line. Specifically, the big boys. That's my job. I have a big-ass sword. The big-ass sword stabs the dragon fucking dies, reincarnates, hopefully does a better job next time. Unfortunately, I've been put here without a job, stuck inside of a brat who has repeatedly used my power in ways I didn't expect. And now, you're getting insurgents of the draconic kind. I don't know what that does for me. I don't know what that does for you. But it's about to get real fun.
Could you, instead of calling her, she's not that bad when she gets to know her. I mean, maybe if you guys work together,
She
it would
is,
be a
though.
lot. Reef! I'm trying to
Don't worry-
bargain
don't-
with the scary
worry
man in
about it.
Orion's head.
I mean,
I
I can
get-
talk to him, and I have a contract with Jimmy. I can talk to him at any time, you know?
It's true.
You fucking what?
I've told you this.
I forgot. Okay, I got a lot of shit going on between then and now. All right, that kind of
That was
slipped my
so
mind.
fucking good. Unknown, you're
All right.
phenomenal. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think you have a, what is it, a tournament to fight? And that's when you kind of like clock back into the announcing, fighters, are you present? Fighters, please take your
Duh,
positions.
Fuck. Dep shit.
Trust, can I do something weird?
So wait, how are we gonna fight when there's a scale the size of my ship on the fucking field?
You just fucking, it's like stabbed in kind of. I'm just gonna draw it. We're gonna do red. It's like,
I'm going to. Can I roll to do a sneaky beaky? I would like to get a sample from the dragon scale.
you can do that after the fight too, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere.
Okay, I'm basically gonna lurk and wait for my chance.
Trust, I'm gonna send you an idea, and you can tell me if this is
Sure.
something you want or not.
I didn't plan on doing any of this today, but I'm excited. This is fun. Also, that is a little bit of the inspiration I had for Jimmy. Yes, unknown.
Mm-hmm. What?
Sorry, Silverhand.
I
Wait.
Look, all I'm gonna tell you on that one, Chief, is look at the features section of the book, okay?
The features section.
That's my
Because-
favorite
did I-
section. That's the section on page 36 where when you cross the corruption line too much, then there's certain features you can grab.
I have 5 D's nuts tokens.
Fair enough, but I mean, features are
Features let
permanent,
you do
like
things
your
that you normally
telekinesis.
couldn't.
Yeah,
know, I'm
these don't require magic to do.
I know.
Or the ones that
I
do
have,
require
I,
magic to do are exceptional feats that allow you to do.
I have
But
multiple of them. Don't worry. I know that. But I guess that's Orion that's Trust telling me I can't do the thing I suggested.
that's me saying that if you want to do that, you're gonna have to break one of your bonds in order to do that.
Okay, I don't care enough.
Okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
Orion.
Fighters. Begin in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so we never got a chance to discuss how we wanted to do this.
Five is just gonna draw a sword.
Right. Okay, we're doing that, and Soul's gonna
But
fucking bring out.
It's up.
Bring out two
It's
of
up
his.
to you. So, you know what,
I-
dude? You don't mind it. I'm here to win this. I'm here to change things. I'm not backing down.
Right, but we're also kind of doing this as a team.
We are doing this as a team, but there's so many people on our team. I don't know the motives of. Can't quite figure out. Can't quite trust. You still are a mystery to me. And the fact that you can go Jekyll or Hyde in just a matter of a snap of someone's fingers, be a little
No.
terrified handing you the power to a kingdom.
No. Look, try. That doesn't happen anymore. Try it. Try it. See what happens.
Not interested, so.
Okay, fair.
Oh.
All I know is I'm along with this plan, and I don't want to hurt you.
I don't particularly want to hurt you either, but if we have to fight and you're not wanting to surrender, then so be it. I'm willing to die for my principles. I'm willing to die for the people who've come from nothing, trying to just have a fair chance at life. Are you willing to die for the faction that signed you up?
My faction is me.
Exactly.
So kind of glances over at Wreath. Or no, Wreath's looking at Ryan.
Well, I've turned around and I'm watching the fight now.
He kind of glances over at Wreath for a sec.
Yeah.
Jimmy pipes up. Wow, you kind of fucked.
I mean, you either forfeit or you fight Fire Fist and then forfeit. Just depends if you want to entertain the crowd or not, I guess.
Put on a little show, right, Firefist?
You put on a show, it's just gonna make me tired for the next one, so.
Oh,
I mean, I've
know,
got one objective.
No, you're right. You're right. Gotta make sure you have your strength to fight Terra.
I'm more, to be honest with you, worried about Luna, because that was some scary shit, and we don't know exactly what's going on, but I'm hearing a lot more than one voice.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to hurt her either, but I do think she's a terrifying risk for the seed of power.
At this point, yeah.
But with her being in the condition she's on, I don't know if she'd back down willingly. So I'm trying to be prepared. You could
know
fight
what?
me, hell, you might even win. But would you be willing to take her on if that's the case?
I don't think I could. And he will dissipate his swords and just put his hands up and go, I forfeit the match.
Fire for
Holy
somebody
shit.
away.
Holy
Brain is
shit.
decided.
Holy shit.
Firefist will walk over and shake your hand, or shake Stoll's hand.
Let me shake your hand.
I'm glad to,
Sorry.
for what it's worth, I'm glad we didn't have to fight. We didn't really want
Yeah.
to. I don't want to fight here, my friends, but there needs to be a means to an end to all this, and I intend to see it through.
No, I get it. I'm glad you're the one who's able to do it. Just he lowers his tone. Just please don't kill her.
Believe me, I have no interest in killing her, and I promise you, if I fuck up, I've got something up my sleeve to fix it all.
All right.
I meant what I
And,
said when I said I'm going to die for my principles and I'll do anything for them. So, no worry.
All right. Okay.
Oh, with a
That will
loud.
go
Also
ahead and
love Fire
leave.
I'm
Fist.
sorry. You see,
Sorry.
like, Luna, like, kind of, like, shakes her finger. She's like, hi, like, welcome back.
Sheepishly waving. It's like, she absolutely fucking terrifies me right now, is what he's thinking in his head.
It's okay. That's allowed.
What it's worth, I'm pretty sure you gave Solstice an oh no.
Hey, what? Hey.
she
He
she
knocks
raises her
Firefist on the
hand
shoulder. Dude.
to her face and just like laughs. And you hear like a cacophonous, like dissonant laugh. You hear like,
That's good. At least his viewers still alive and well and understand. So it's something.
you hear over the loudspeakers. The next fight will be between Terra of the Endless City and Luna of Hearthtown. Would the fighters please take their
Hearthtown?
position? Wasn't it for Hearthtown?
Luna's from Mooncradle.
Luna left Mooncradle to work for
Luna was
Hearthtown.
an envoy to Hearthtown, as in the Mooncradle embassy.
Oh, that's correct. Luna of fucking Mooncradle. My bad. Thank you.
No problem.
She is out and grabbing herself.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I say I only had that fresh in my mind because we discussed it when I was writing the Andromeda episode. But anyways,
Oh, thank you for the clarity on that.
yeah.
Yeah. Tara, welcome. You're welcome to take a sample of that while they're counting up.
Yeah, she basically like serpentine scutters across the floor to get a scraping of the sample, putting it into a
What are you gonna use to scrape
tough
this
bubble.
scale?
Athame that I've always had.
Mm-hmm. It just like comedically bends on the scale.
What's up, Firefist?
While Tara's doing that, I'm gonna sneak over to Wreath, who I'm assuming is not in earshot of Luna.
Possibly not.
Probably not.
Wreath, you more experienced with the oddities. Any idea what the fuck we're dealing with and what's gotten into Luna?
I was actually just asking Marks about that. Something about multiple systems of magic coursing through her at once. He might be able to tell you more, but we're not sure.
I'm more concerned about the voices, not just the source of magic. That shit sounds like schizophrenia on cocaine.
I'm more concerned on if she keeps her mind and if this is permanent.
I'll have to admit, that's also crossed my mind. What's the chance you
Yeah.
think we can talk her into surrendering before she gets to the final?
It's hard to say if she's still the Luna. If she's still in full control, that was the plan all along, and she agreed to it. But power does things to people, and also dragons are known for thinking they know better, and I'm not sure how much of that is affecting her right now.
That's what I worry about more than anything is how much of a state she's really there and how much is corrupted there. I guess we'll find out when it comes time, but I really didn't want to have a fight that kind of lethality, but I mean,
I mean,
no
if you
choice.
if you fight her, you'll probably lose, and if you do, well, we'll have to see what happens after that.
Possibly, but that's the risk I have to take.
Yep, and that's your decision. I can't make that one for you.
Can't let another tyrant take the reins of any of the kingdoms. That's why I'd get rid of this shit, not add to it to add some unknown terrifying force.
That's also why I'm hoping this dissipates. But what's going to happen when it dissipates? Need to start weighing our options as to how to deal with that. 'Cause the only one I can think of on my end is really unpleasant for me.
You hear over the loudspeaker. Begin.
Guys,
Good.
I just want to add, just right before having soul walks over and just look, I can only infer what he's talking about, but I have something as well, just in case.
Does Terra still have that anti-magic gun also?
Done.
Oh, her purity, the one she shot Soul with.
Oh
Forgot
yeah.
about purity, yeah.
That might be something we can use if it comes to it.
She's got that, and I've got. It's a collar.
Oh
Oh,
god.
well, I
that-
gave you. That's
no.
right.
Yeah, it's in
The-
case of emergencies, but
The control thing, if you try to use that, she's going to kill
No.
you.
no.
That's
It's not a
fair, Roger.
control thing. It's a power limiter. Fire Fist gives
I
me
swear, if you
a long time. So yeah, go ahead.
if you try to make Tara use the fucking purity wand, she is going to very much like you're going to have to convince her because she just used it on Nova and Nova is fucking gone.
You can use purity on her. You just fucking tackled her, and then she just died.
Yeah, you bit her on the ass.
Yeah.
Be better.
Yeah.
That
Fair.
wasn't your
Okay, my
doing.
bad.
That was just she failed her contract, and that's what happened. She didn't ask to be part of that contract. She was told she was part of that contract, and she didn't really have a chance to say no, but she still failed. And so she got punished for failing that contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Basically,
Because there was 2 track fictions that I had for this scenario, and then I went with bite ass instead.
Yeah, it's been alluded to, but essentially what has happened is that Auspec that Arx had was something that Nova was supposed to grab. It wasn't necessarily for Esther's benefit, but it was for the thing inside of her's benefit. And because it's now not possible to do that, Nova has been punished to not be able to exist anymore.
Oh,
You'd say they've gone supernova.
Indeed. Well, that character sheet's gone. Remember how I said this is a lethal zone?
No.
mhm.
Anyway, so Tara, you are now staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. You're staring at Luna, who is cracked out of her mind. No, she's not cracked out of her mind. She's still she's still holding on. She's still there. Hi, Tara. I'm a wizard too. It's great.
How do you want to play this? She's standing on top of the scale.
Either way, I don't mind. I'll try my best. I don't have any plans on killing you.
Ah, likewise, we've had pancakes. Pancakes are a sacred bond.
She Luna waves her hands, and from nothing you just see pancakes spawn and rotate around before getting eviscerated. Yeah,
That
pancakes.
is not the fruit ninja that I remember.
She's Oh, right. You wanted a sample of that scale. Hold on. She takes a step toward it, slams her hand into the side of it, and crushes a piece of it off into dust for you.
Tara takes note to do that sample in a minute. In a minute. In a minute. The best way I can describe, I'm going to be very authentic
Yeah.
to you what my reaction is right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know that like puppet that has the nervous eyes going back and forth?
Mm-hmm.
That's me, like
That's
looking
about
at
right. That's
every
fair.
fucking buddy that's
That's
like
fair.
huddled, all the guys huddled in the corner right now.
You just hear like Jimmy in the background. Whew! God damn! So she does have that kind of power right now. That's crazy.
Yep.
Jimmy just reminds me of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, fucking Negan from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, he's just
Oh
here
my
chilling.
God.
He's just a guy. He has nothing to fucking do with this shit, and he knows he has nothing to do with this shit until it becomes his job. So he's just kind of, I'm here for a good time, not a
Dude's
long
got
time.
nothing to prove.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking funny.
Tempted to ask the Queen of the Glass Palace right now if this had anything to do with her, to be honest.
That's gonna be a very Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Fuck it. Say Esther. I want.
Yeah, probably
Say
not.
my name, say my
It's okay.
name.
It's
No
okay.
one else
Don't.
around you.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have reacted so strongly.
I specifically didn't ask her say her name there because I know better.
Yeah, sure. You can totally
Alright,
ask her.
anyways.
It's fine. In the meantime, Luna just like she looks back and like what species are you, Tara?
Draconid.
She like turns around, kind of like drops the sample to the ground. And she looks into your eyes like, I'm not used to being able to see people's lineage. I see where you come from.
Tara looks her up and down, startled.
Yeah, got a small amount of it there. Not much, but a small bit. It's hanging on.
What are you saying?
You're part dragon. Very small part, but you are part dragon. It might not mean much these days, but you are kin far enough down the line. Well, come on. Are you gonna?
That's. I genuinely don't know how to respond to that. That. That's gonna need some research for me later.
That's gonna be interesting. I don't know if there are any papers left, or if that would be allowed to remain here, but if it is, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Uncovering secrets together, just like the old times.
Listen. My goal was to help you get to the top of this. I wanted to help out and get the best outcome for all of us.
And I have the same. This power hasn't taken myself from me yet. I'm keeping myself under control, although it is very difficult.
I want to trust you with this. I've been trusting you with this up until now. And she's going to put a hand forward and say, "Promise I can help keep you in check."
I'd shake your hand, but I'm scared I'll crush it.
Fair. And she like holds the hand back. And instead just basically like do a fancy wizard gesture, peace sign thing instead. That is that synth got insane.
Right? It's Dark Tides OST.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
Oh, gotcha. It's like the organ is like overtaking my brain.
Sorry.
I'm just basically going to like step back and say forfeit. A battle I kind of wanted it to be a battle of diplomacy.
She like claps her hands like, "Oh, thank you. I was honestly worried about casting a spell against you. I don't know how that's going to go. I've never casted a spell before. Well, like this, at the very least."
Just, I figure, help those save strength to the final match. Just hold it together till then.
Of course.
Don't want you to lose yourself in it.
Thank you.
Or ideally
And-
after.
Or it all.
Rith,
Yeah,
please.
that would have been great to include that little last bit there.
Welcome to being a wizard. Survive it. You'll get even more crazy shit if you do. And she's gonna
That's
walk
true.
off.
And when the announcer goes to announce the next person, you hear a thunderous roar from Luna. Fire Fist! Come on down.
Good luck, buddy. Out of character, Reef is kind of just curious how this goes because he doesn't have a huge dog in the fight of who runs the country after.
Hey there, buddy.
Well,
So
oh,
Over time?
I was saying. I mean, we're all gonna run together. It's kind of the thing. So I really hope they don't kill each other here.
fair enough.
This must be what it feels like to have a patron. It's a lot of power.
It's a lot of power, not responsibility on top of it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sure just as much as you feel power, you also feel the pain.
Yeah, thankfully that part hasn't hit me yet. I don't know if that's the tiara or if that's my body adapting to it. I'm going to hope it's the second.
Yeah, doesn't hurt to hope, but just be prepared for it. It's not pleasant.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant having control of Orion that time. Well, Orion's
Much
power.
involved considering how many people have been at Ryan's head at any given point.
You know, honestly, at this point, she should just call it a tourist attraction.
It's kind of a revolving door, isn't it?
A little bit. If like Jimmy's just in the background, like, like he's just like laughing. He finds this hilarious. Like, yeah, that's what happens when you make yourself a cage. Everyone can get in, no one can get out. And you hear the announcer tell you to begin. Like, so I'll keep it real with you. If this power is permanent, I think I could do very well at protecting the Endless City. And what I want to know, and what we haven't talked about until this point, is what's your goal? What do you want? My job, what I see my job as, is my job is to protect people first and foremost, to make sure that the diplomacy is done correctly. And then, and only then, should we need to retaliate to have that done.
Goals are not exactly that far off. Though, I have a bit of an addendum. See, my goal's been the same since I started this journey. And it's not to keep the same rotation of shit that's never worked. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people of power sitting upon their throne and looking down on the masses, letting the weakest suffer and rewarding the top 1% of any kingdom. It takes every hand to make a kingdom work, no matter how much power there may be behind it. And that's been overlooked for far too long. I don't want the typical ruler. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even want full control and say in everything. I would prefer the people to be able to speak. I'd rather there be a similar system to what we have now with factions, and you can have representatives of those said factions gather, discuss diplomatically issues that are ongoing, and ways to solve them. I'm not some son of a bitch who's arrogant enough to think I have all the answers, but I do believe that if you put some of the most brilliant minds together, the answers are far more attainable than before.
Sorry, I got giddy. Um, she has a few like steps forward. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be honest. Some of the current rulers are not the best, and for what it's worth, we'd probably be better off without them. Although my question and my problem will come down to whether or not you see me as a threat. If I become the next target, and if I am the next target, I'd like to know.
I'm confused by what you mean about target. I'm not quite. You're talking about here in the stadium. What are you talking about? The seat of power. If there's something where we would target you if you do a poor job or something of that nature.
If I am to become the ruler of this nation, if I am to try and fulfill that position with my knowledge, if I am to use the power that I have to do that to the best of my ability, I want to know where your allegiance would be. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, but I am asking if you would trust me at all.
Well, clearly I can trust you. At least I believe I could before today. I mean, I remember our discussion about the ship. I think we talked about having you be the one to stand in as the ambassador to oversee things while we helped adjust the other kingdoms, so to say. I believe your diplomatic approach and your resolve are not questionable typically. The only thing I worry about currently is, well, let's be bluntly honest. You just took on a whole lot of power at once, and you said yourself you're having a hard time holding certain things back. Whether that's for now permanent, that's to be seen. So I have my reservations about surrendering here, just because if something did happen, if you did take the seat, if you were imbued with royal magic, and you already have this much power, you'd be a terrifyingly lethal force and a threat to every other civilization in the entire planet.
It's true. And I think the only reason why no one's come at me yet, or why we haven't seen any signs, is because one, the crowd ran away a long time ago. And for two, I'm debating on it. I'm debating on it. I'm debating on it. I'm debating on it. I'm debating on it.
That's Can. She was starts singing, I'm debating on it. I'm debating on it. I'm
Yeah,
debating.
you just have Luna like shaking her hand. She's like, this power is interesting. It really is. It makes you have some very, very high amounts of confidence. Very toxic levels of confidence. It's giving me a bit of a It's given me a bit of a revelation, a little bit of a moment where I could have some clarity in this. I think this is the one and only time we'll have a hold over the scales that we've been fighting against. And I think we could say, make a message clear very quickly.
You're not wrong. There's a lot of power lying in the balance right now, and they've done the strategic moves to ensure we're in the best place for it. Let me be forward with you. I don't want to fight you, Luna. As a matter of fact, I like you. But I also have a responsibility to see through what I swore to the people of the inner city, especially the kobolds who've been treated like absolute shite. As I told Solstice, I'm going to die for my principles. Don't particularly want to. But if I don't stand behind my words and my actions and carry it as far as I can, then what's the point? I would in turn ask you, would you be willing to stick to the original plan? Would you be willing to surrender here, but join us, be a part of that, be a force of that good inside of the new government? Help us reconstruct things in a manner that's fair for everyone, but not have to worry about the heat, because if this power does fade for some reason, one of the last things I want is you to have a target on your back, much like Rez had one on hers.
She's thinking very heavily. She's got like her head kind of like in her hands, or like her chin like in her palm, just kind of having a big hmm.
Let me give you one more thing that might help. If you and the others agree, as a council, as a group, that I am unfit to be in the position I'm in, I will step down, and I would be willing to make a blood pact on that right now.
It's occurred to me something. It's occurred to me a little idea, a thought, something that I think would be fun. It would be a shame to not have the current parties we're afraid of, let's say, not have a voice in this matter. What do you say we let a particular thorn in our side choose her own poison?
Well, you have in mind. I'm just kind of confused looking at her. So, who are you talking about?
Well, if our current concern is the queen who can't die, what happens when she has to swallow her pride and accept one of two options she doesn't want?
I see something what you mean. And I know exactly who you mean at this point.
So why not let her decide? Let's see which one she decides.
I'm sorry.
You think that's a good idea?
Who's
The Queen of the
who's
Last
being afraid of?
Palace.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, Luna is saying, I have the power right now to scare the absolute living hell out of Esther. And if, like, and basically she's getting at it where she wants to use it while she can. And she's saying that if if Esther has to see this right now, the two people who are on the field right now, and make a decision between who gets the power, like who gets the seat of power, that's going to, one, scare the fuck out of her, and two, is going to make it so that she chose this. She is actively complicit in creating the next person in power.
Yeah.
Or, I could always just, throw a big rock at her or something.
That'd be funny.
Quick.
I'd like to see that.
I mean, in,
I mean,
in her
real-
defense, Alice did drop a ship on her last time, and she seemed kind of
Yeah.
unfazed. I literally tore her in half.
That was also all very funny. I wish I could remember more of it.
If I may,
Yeah.
I will give you guys one more option to mull on.
Mhm.
There are 6 factions that we're representing right now for this tournament. You could ask them to decide.
You know what? There's another option too. Ask the other participants in our party to decide.
Are we throwing
Okay,
it to
who
the
better-
council?
Who
I mean,
wins?
who better to make the decision than the people who stood along us the entire way and know who we are? And I can think of no people better than to make some kind of determination on that instance.
About who should win this thing right here and now?
Yep.
Oh boy.
You guys really need to understand what me being a foreign agent means.
Well, the funny thing is, we could also include Esther if we wanted to, so she could still have a part in choosing her own downfall.
I don't work for Esther.
No, but
And
that's still
your
funny.
high.
To be fair, this is out of character, so
Yeah,
if I'm not talking
fair
like this, then it's out of character.
yeah, that was out of character. Yeah, I mean, I'm good either way.
You see, like,
I'm willing to roll the dice either way.
ooh. I'd like to put it to the council.
All right,
I think
let's
that's
put
a
it to
fun
the
idea.
council.
Luna just kind of like sits down and kind of throws her hands back. Well, how about we let you guys decide?
Oh, it's a great idea. Look at us. We're even, no matter what happens, we're only being diplomatic.
Right? It's a great foundation.
It is. It just does wonders when it's implemented right.
God.
Well, for what it's worth, you're asking me to pick between a dragon and a dragon, so if I'm gonna have to pick between 2 dragons, I guess I'm gonna go for the less sparkly one, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Jimmy. He
Jimmy
says,
has waited.
I may not be I might get in trouble for saying this, but at least as far as the
Hold on. You
Ori-
want to do something fun?
what?
You guys want to have our own secret ballot? You can throw in the chat, and then that way you can say which character votes which way, and the audience won't know.
Aw, that's sick.
Sure.
Well, so I guess I don't understand. We had a plan. We're just picking who to put in the power seat to enact the same plan.
Kind of,
I
but
mean-
not. This is the difference of whoever is going to takes this responsibility will be officially imbued with royal power. And if you were listening a little while back about what Ozzy was talking about, there's a crossroads where corruption and the wrong decision can lead to devastating consequences. So that's where Firefist is worried, because he knows that's in the cards, and that if Luna's already on the
Yeah.
edge, then she may go well over the edge.
Yeah. Sorry, I know I was listening to that. I guess I just didn't.
I like this. It's fun.
Maybe she need to wait.
It's fun. We've taken some different directions tonight. I have just been super here for the ride and seeing kind of how it flows.
Tara, do you want to cast your vote?
Yeah, I'll cast my vote.
Multiple people are typing.
Yep.
I love this. It's great. I'm having my players discuss things. For those of you in chat, I appreciate your patience. Lizard, 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 lizard. Are you drawing a giant Among Us around?
Oh my god.
Fire fist.
No, 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 no. I don't know.
Better not be. The chair you're sitting on might just spontaneously catch fire.
I'm sitting on a concrete slab.
Like that stopped him before.
What the fuck?
I mean, technically anything's flammable if you if you
Heat it enough.
yeah.
So you give a little clarity with just a singular one answer. Because your explanation is I'm following it to an extent, but it's somewhat confusing. There we go.
All right. Seems like we have, if I'm not mistaken, reached unanimous decision.
Wait,
Not unanimous, but close to.
Not in it. Yeah, I would say we haven't
Okay.
got Souls not voted yet.
Unless I misinterpreted yours, Vivi, I do apologize. Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I don't know what yeah means. Sorry.
It's unanimous.
What?
Everyone voted Firefist. Even if I voted at this point, it wouldn't matter. All the votes from Firefist.
You can still
So
vote.
Yeah. I just want to know where your allegiance lies. Wizard Schmorp. Schmorbles. Yeah, we'll get to that, Bat. Don't worry about it.
All right.
All right. Luna throws up her hands. Fine. I forfeit.
And Firefist to walk closer. Thank you. I'm glad we did not have to actually engage in combat. I know you're probably anxious to test out some of these new abilities, but I'm glad that hopefully when we do, the stakes will be a little lower so we can get you used to these new powers. And for your sake, I hope you maintain the control as well as you have. And if you like it, I do hope it sticks around.
Speaking of, I think I found out something about that.
Do tell.
You see her like grab the tiara in her hands, and she snaps it.
Just kind of
Oh.
eyes wide.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
If there's nothing left to give the power back, there is nowhere for the power to go.
Well then,
all right.
I'm tired of
Fair
being
enough.
mundane. It's time I be a wizard, whatever that means.
Well, it means a lot of weird shit, but you've kept up with us so far, so we'll see what goes. Just wait till we take you to a schmammies.
I have always wanted to go to a Schmarmies.
Hey,
We'll support you.
I,
Or go ahead, Sol.
I I am gonna save this comment for later, but I just realized something very important that I don't want to say in the stadium.
Okay.
Yep.
You good soul?
Yeah. Just we'll talk later. He's like he's realizing that what he really wants to yell out right now shouldn't be said in public eye.
Firefighter thinking it's like, yeah, we know. You go, hey, finish for your girlfriend. It's fine.
No, it's not that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh no, like most of us. So,
She was like,
Luna,
go ahead.
Luna, you have our support. However, you can, however we can to help you keep things on the level, and also give you whatever training we can.
Yep.
We're sticking to the original plan, just in case, but at the same time, you still have our full trust.
Thank you. And Firefist, I hope the best for when you go to the trial. From what I've heard, it's never a fun one.
Yeah, you and I both. I appreciate that. It's gonna be rough, but I know that enough resolve, and I've got you guys backing me, so we'll get through it one way or another.
And with that, the announcer, to a relatively empty crowd, though some have started to return, I don't know why the meow didn't work, I apologize. A relatively empty crowd. Firefist, you are the little kobold's like, Firefist the of the crag is the new king, queen, quick king of the endless city. Yay! He's afraid of what happened. He didn't want to be here, but he had to be here.
You know without mates.
Wait, wasn't he a
party for the night?
Didn't you say he was kobold?
Yeah,
Which wouldn't he also be affected by the fact Firefist just won?
yeah. He
Probably would be, but he's also scared shitless.
Yeah, he's very excited, but also he just witnessed the birth of a demigod and is also witnessing that someone just got smited by an actual god. And someone might be possessed by the fucking mercenary of a god. There's some interesting things happening going on right now. He's done holding up a brave face to do his job. It's now not his job, and now it's his job to be scared.
Just imagine him sprinting from the announcer box as fast as possible, just like fuck this, fuck this, fuck this.
Yeah, you just see him like jump, grab onto the bar above the door and just yeet, jump right the fuck off the wall. Bolt. Well, looks like you're not going to be getting your fanfare immediately, but you know.
To be fair, I was never in it for the fanfare. I'm in it for the peace. And that right now is enough for me. I'm glad that we didn't have any more fatalities today than were necessary. I kind of feel bad for, the scale of sarcophagus behind us, but it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
quite sure what Orion's going to do with it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that one.
That'll be an interesting discussion later.
She waking up in there, Jimmy?
Oh no, she's out cold.
All right.
That cage was keeping her alive. It was also keeping her awake. So, she's gonna take a little bit. to rest up.
Oh,
So you're stuck with
okay.
me. I promise I'm only a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah, to be fair, aren't we all?
Are we all?
Hey, I
See,
try not to be.
like you guys. This is incredible. This is amazing. Do you have beer?
We do.
Oh,
No.
fuck yeah, we got beer.
Fuck yeah.
What?
he like he like throws his sword on his back. It's like hell yeah.
So, Solstice, I think you forget, even if you don't have beer on the ship, we're in a kingdom that's now controlled by us. I'm sure that there's someone in this kingdom we can purchase beer off of.
Yeah.
Oh, you
No,
don't
you're.
you gotta do? Don't you got some right thing to do first?
Probably. I don't exactly know when that takes place. So, I mean, it is late in the day. I imagine they would do that tomorrow. But to be
Oh.
fair, I have no fucking clue.
She'll find you. Don't worry. The
Oh.
endless.
She.
Yes, the endless city has a apparently has a shaman which keeps their special rights under lock and key. They'll find you. And from what I hear, they're rather difficult to deal with and incredibly old. So I would be ready at any time.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
I'm gonna install Linux on her papyrus.
Oh my god.
So I do have just one
Yeah.
question. Just one question. Luna, can you turn it down? I'm not saying I just don't want you to melt through the ship because you were kind of melting the concrete, and I really don't want you to fall from the ship because that would suck. Please, someone laugh or say something.
Luna like stares at you with a blank stare, like, ah, that is a problem. I don't know how.
Yeah. Oh.
I can break
Well,
the moon.
no. No.
Well,
Uh,
It
we
would
can
be
use this
really
arena for
funny.
something.
No.
So you guys
Uh,
know, like, when you have to, like, a dog, like, has, like, a ton of food and it needs to run around for a while? I think that we need to tire Luna out.
I don't know if that's possible without her blowing up.
oh man,
All our Luna keeps blowing up. Ah!
But also, I'm probably not the best person to ask for answer. I got someone exploded. Again. How does this keep happening?
We could try.
You motherfucker.
what?
What?
What did you do?
You motherfucker.
I'm
That was
very
nice, bro.
clever. If you think that's fine, then I've got a fun way for us to leave out. Perfect.
Uh-oh.
Oh, speaking of, that's right. You said I need to be prepared. I guess there's no time at the present.
Let me just give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something.
Sure.
1 sec.
Firefox, what did you do?
Ah.
You'll
I-
see.
There we go. It's been a while since I've seen that face. Okay. Ready and waiting.
Firefist is going to give himself voluntarily 1 corruption.
I'm sorry, he's what?
He voluntarily gave himself 1 corruption.
Um, uh, uh,
Well,
um,
go ahead and take your bond. I
Oh
suppose.
god.
I will do that. You go ahead and mark that.
Well,
Sure.
that new bond we gave you for your birthday didn't last very long.
What the?
You see why I was like, you motherfucker. So, yeah. Luna witnesses.
So I think that,
Go ahead.
go for it. No. Please go for it.
Yeah, Luna witnesses you. I don't deliberately like fucking just accept some curse. Maybe it's from the jewel, maybe it's from an oath, maybe it's from something later on that's just been like waiting or something. You just say fuck it and burn part of your humanity. And from her perspective, with her newfound eyes, she sees light within you dim. Oh. Oh. I see. They do have her brand, yes. You are different.
Somewhat, but I'll leave nothing to chance. As I said before, I'm a man of my principles. I made you a promise, so I made multiple promises, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that I keep those promises, regardless what happens to me in the end. The mark I leave now is more important than anything. The ways I can change the world, I can.
And yeah, welcome to the end of the tournament arc.
I don't understand why Firefist did that or what he's doing.
You'll
It's
understand
very clever.
next time.
Oh,
Wizards of the Waste.
Oh, wizards in the ways, motherfuckers. That's right.
Thank you all so very much for watching.
wait,
Jesus
wait.
fuck.
Are we leaving the lethal zone trust?
Oh, yeah.
Can we put on some Kenny Loggins?
I got you. Don't hang on. Stand by. I've never typed the words faster in my life.
Danger zone.
I love you.
Ah.
Bum, 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 bum. You know, when I was making that penis over Eastern Ohio, I turned to my instructor. I did say, what if I
Huh?
start playing Danger Zone right now? Oh, do you not remember that?
I'm not aware of this story.
Oh, when
yeah,
we're flying. Contest.
Yeah. When he drew it in the fucking sky.
Yeah,
The great dick in the sky.
I drew. Yeah, Desh, you knew this. I drew a dick over Western Ohio in an airplane. What do you mean? What the fuck? I told you this. I said
I'm so glad Dash was there to watch you have a fucking panic attack and bottom spamming your note.
Dash. Yeah, shut up. Anyways, yeah, no, you knew this.
Right, they did. You told us about this during work along, I remember.
Yeah,
Hi,
I was
Dash.
proud of that. They say hi, by the way.
Hello.
Hi.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I said in my video, hey, can I hook my phone up to the transponder and play Danger Zone? He looks at me and says, I will personally push you out of the Cessna. It's like, thanks, man, I appreciate it.
Sorry for making your boyfriend have a panic attack several times.
So look, she
I'm
wasn't here
not.
for one of them. She was here for they're apologizing for making me have a panic attack.
What?
They're apologizing for making me have several panic attacks during tonight's session.
I'm sorry, you had what?
No, because she's gonna stab me, guys. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
What the fuck? What the
You're
fuck?
Suffer.
I'm so loved. Anyways, notes are uploaded.
Thank you for
Can
taking
you
the notes.
post
As
a
always,
link to those notes, by the way? Because I've never actually had a link to.
Oh, so if you go to the character sheet folder, there is
Yeah, I don't have the character sheet folder. I intentionally only got mine so that I would never have the temptation to look at anybody else's character sheet and see what maybe going on behind the scenes.
That's fair. Here, I will send you the link to the folder with all the notes right
Oh
there.
shit,
in your
that's
DMs.
super cool. Deer person's streaming.
Can you please send it to me too? I've never had the link to those.
Yeah. Oh fuck! Here, I'll fucking put it in Wizards Council.
There you
Oh yeah, pin that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, pin it.
Got it.
Not only.
So yeah, if you click that that massive link, you can. There are notes from fucking when I realized that notes were a good idea on 6/2 of last year, all the way up to literally tonight. I try to upload them right after we say
They're so
we're
fucking
done.
clutch and also hilarious.
Yeah, because there's no filter. It's mind keyboard. So like the moment something happens, it's my like live interpretation of what's going on.
Fucking adore that shit.
There was the night I had COVID. Do you guys remember when I caught COVID a couple months ago?
Yes, the notes are so good.
There was there is a line where I go, she goes to me alive and she step. When I was trying to talk about Alice stepping out of the Martyr of Starlight. I don't remember much about that session. That page is the only memory I have of that session. I was on so many different drugs and NyQuil.
We're gonna raid Distant Medium tonight. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
What's that?
Escaping before Uno.
Hey guys, I
Yeah.
can you for
Please don't. I don't want to be seen. Don't touch me.
And
Anyways, I'll be dead in about 5 minutes, guys.
congrats. And yeah, thank you all for playing
I'll think
and
about not killing him.
for successfully taking it so off the rails that I had to had to kill a character.
I mean, you literally did that to yourself.
I did, yeah.
Like,
Did it to
we didn't do that
myself.
much. You just said,
Did
hey,
it to
it'd be
myself.
hey, there's an opportunity for something really funny to happen. Should we? And we were like, okay. And then the rest was you.
Yeah.
Hey GM, how come I didn't get a? Are you sure? I'm so. Oh god. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I exploded. I'm sorry. I exploded. Your ex.
You exploded?
They're not. Anyway.
Hey.
God damn it.
Your raid doesn't appear to be happening, by the way.
It is happening.
No,
It's
it's
got
going.
seconds.
It's happening. Bye, everybody.
Alright,
See you tomorrow at 9 p.m. for Countdown.
Bye.
Bye.